Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for the Humidity Webinar. My name is Stott. I'm a product specialist at XLR Systems along with my colleague here, Shelby Hanson. At XLR Systems, we're driven by the motto of taking complex things and making them simple, which we consider to be the very essence of innovation. Beyond developing and manufacturing the world's most extreme next-generation environmental control systems and accessories, we offer an unmatched level of customer resources and technical support. In maintaining close connections with numerous industry professionals, we consider it a great privilege to be able to share valuable, relevant information while building mutually beneficial business relationships. When operating a cannabis facility, it's important to closely monitor and balance humidity levels to ensure an optimum environment for each respective stage of the growing process. In the ever-evolving cannabis industry, we've realized that many people hadn't had the opportunity to gain much in-depth experience with the intricacies of this concept. As such, despite being a direct contributor to plant growth and facility success, the importance of balanced humidity methods of dehumidification and humidification and further refinement with data analytics technology are sometimes overlooked. Therefore, we're going to outline why exactly humidity is one of the most underrated, underappreciated aspects of the grow room planning and explain how our knowledge, expertise, and products can help you achieve balanced humidity levels to make your plants thrive. We'd like to start with an overview of past attempts at humidity management and how they've fallen short. The problem with traditional methods. There are some methods of humidity control technology which, while not totally ineffective at every step, are lacking in consistency, dependability, and efficiency, especially when compared with more refined, modernized solutions. Traditionally, with very few HVAC manufacturers offering air conditioning systems with built-in dehumidification, and the ones that did being on a much bigger scale and impractical, many cannabis growers have just opted for cooling-only air conditioning systems due to their cheaper costs. Since this would seem manageable in the early stages of the growing process while plants were small, growers did not initially feel the need for dehumidifiers. However, as the plants grew slightly larger and began to transpire, it would quickly become evident that the humidity level in the environment could not be consistently controlled and maintained successfully. On top of that, many cultivators operating non-sealed grow rooms have relied on the technique of bringing outside air into their facilities to save energy costs, especially during the winter, despite the fact that bringing in cold and damp air means even more humidity. This has caused problems with condensation and put plants in a difficult state. It has also literally opened the door for particulate, pollen, insects, and whatever else in the air to get into the room and infect the plants. In order to avoid these undesirable possibilities, counter increased humidity levels, and restore balance to grow robust plants for higher yields of 2 pounds or more per 1,000 watts, many cultivators have ended up purchasing some sort of dehumidifiers for their grow room. Each dehumidifier unit comes at a substantial cost, requires further power, and greatly increases the heat load. Since it is directing heat from the compressor back into the environment, this process, referred to as heat compression, entails running a compressor and knowing how much the refrigerant is going to take. For example, 4 or 5 of the dehumidifiers could be adding an extra 10,000 watts into the environment, increasing the room temperature. This will cause it to increase the thermostat's threshold, which in turn will turn on the conditioning to restore the cooler nighttime temperatures. Then once it's turned off, the temperature will rise once more, necessitating even more air conditioning to compensate and drop the temperature back down again. With this happening, the air conditioning and dehumidification systems are operating in direct conflict with each other, which is extremely inefficient. Since dehumidifiers run as close to freezing as possible in order to extract the maximum amount of moisture, they usually end up freezing the system. When this inevitably happens, either hot gas is required to thaw it, or the system just shuts off for a certain length of time, usually close to 15 minutes, before restarting the process all over again, resulting in a perpetual freezing and thawing cycle. Every time a system is in this process of transitioning from freezing to thawing, it's not doing its job dehumidifying. And if it takes 15 minutes to properly achieve dehumidification, but is always cycling on and off before that, it's never actually going to achieve its peak running state and desired humidity levels. Growers attempting to resolve this predicament are faced with the dilemma of figuring out whether they need to buy more cooling-only air conditioning systems or more dehumidifiers. They're always doing that juggle, questioning whether or not they have the right number of each to compensate accordingly. Even if a balanced cooling and dehumidification cycle is properly determined for the daytime, a grow room's nighttime cycle can prove problematic in a subpar setup and throw everything off. Since that same moisture is sitting there while the lights and air conditioning are shut off, if this humidity breaches the 70% level, the high risk of mold and mildew can quickly become devastating. At that point, dehumidification is needed, but with the units that can adequately accommodate the setup. Since dehumidifiers of this grade are not made to last for a prolonged duration, growers will still end up having to purchase replacements every couple of years. With regards to the growing process itself, in the main flower room stage, growers traditionally felt that they had no choice but to wait for their plants to acclimate for the first few weeks before things could really kick into high gear. This is because the fairly radical change, going from a high humidity, rainforest-like environment to a much drier, warmer environment with increased lights, is initially quite a shock for the plants. Until reaching their full size, they are still not yet transpiring an adequate amount of moisture, so the system ends up sucking too much out, which actually leaves them needing humidity and puts them in a stressful state. More recently, however, many growers have begun to realize that creating a smooth transition from the pre-veg state through to the start of flowering can have a massive impact on plant health and growth potential and allow them to build a better foundation for the remaining stages. Therefore, in striving to correct for the humidity imbalance and lack of moisture at this stage, some cultivators have then purchased humidifiers for their grow rooms. Unfortunately, the average manageable sized humidifiers that have traditionally been available leave a lot to be desired, being quite small and of very low capacity, only about 5 or 10 gallons a day, since they're generally intended for home applications. A lot of these standard units are steam-powered, utilizing the process of electrolysis involving the heating of water, which generates heat that's being added into the environment. Since they're integrated directly into the actual air handler itself, a separate blower module is needed. The larger scale humidifiers, while more sophisticated, are also extremely expensive and operate with compressed air and a bit of water. This requires a lot of additional gear and components, including an air compressor, which makes them quite noisy, producing a high-pitched air compressor sound which can stress the plants. Due to the uncertainty related to their necessity, these units have not even been utilized to their full potential either, since most growers have simply placed them in the environment without knowing how to set them up for proper dispersion. Then, not unlike the average dehumidifiers, the operational lifespan of these humidifiers is also very limited, requiring fairly frequent replacement. Altogether, for cannabis cultivators, trying to rely on these outdated dehumidification and humidification methods has proven to be hopelessly inefficient, terribly disastrous, and extremely costly, but the need for balanced humidity levels within a sealed grow room remain crucial to an operation's overall success, and cannot be simply ignored. The importance of balanced humidity. Along with airflow design, air quality, and odor control, which we previously covered, humidity is one of the most important aspects of operating a cannabis grow room. What makes it so important? One reason is its close relationship to temperature. Achieving balanced humidity is never possible without adequate temperature control, and vice versa. A direct correlation referred to as relative humidity, RH. Depending on how much moisture is in the grow space. This increases and decreases accordingly. This concept may initially sound confusing, but is best comprehended by envisioning the room as a giant sponge, which is larger with warmer air and smaller with colder air. Dipping the sponge into a bowl of water would be like it holding moisture in the room, but falling temperatures would be like the sponge being squeezed, removing its ability to retain as much with water coming out. For example, in a grow room that's running a temperature of 80 Fahrenheit, and humidity level of 55%, shutting off the lights for a 12-hour cycle would cause the temperature levels to severely decrease, with a rapid increase in the humidity level. The warmer the air gets, the more it expands, and with it, its ability to hold moisture. Conversely, the colder it gets, the more it contracts, which doesn't allow it to hold very much. As a close comparison, even with the same amount of moisture in the air at 80 Fahrenheit, the humidity level may be at 55%. While at 60 Fahrenheit it might be at 75%. Adequate dehumidification technology must be implemented in order to circumvent the challenges of such discrepancies. But this process will not be instantaneous, so several things have to be considered depending on each stage of the growing process. Obviously, as most growers know well, plants need some degree of humidity at every stage, and creating high humidity environments is key during the veg state. Then as they transpire, different amounts of moisture humidity is needed to help them retain water, especially in warmer climates, where the air itself is very dry. That being said, too much humidity in a grow room can also cause plants to get sick, with a lot of bacterial growth, so a balance is needed, particularly in the nighttime cycles. For cultivators with appropriately sized air conditioning, what's most ideal is to keep grow room temperatures precisely between 78 to 80 Fahrenheit, with humidity levels between 50 and 60%. Before the temperature can actually be fully lowered, The system has to first dehumidify the environment by lowering the dew point, thereby dropping the humidity level. This dehumidification process of removing moisture from the air is happening at any time the air conditioning is being run. Since condensation naturally forms when warm air passes over the system's cold condenser coil, having a properly sized system is so important. But with the variability of what's traditionally been available, that is much easier said than done. With this realization, we've dealt with many people who've expressed frustration regarding their struggle to maintain and balance humidity levels in their grow facility. If a customer comes to us saying that they're having an issue with humidity in their room, what's the answer? Well, how do we fix it? For a balanced grow room, we need them to set things up so precisely the temperature and humidity remains within a 3-point mark. We'd now like to take a look at these superior humidity solutions. Implementing dehumidification. If you think that there is too much humidity in your grow space, or you're having an issue with your dehumidifier battling your air conditioning system, you may be wondering how to best remedy this situation. Since that beneficial balance is lost without controlling both humidity and temperature, at XLR Systems we have the solution. We're proud to offer the Evolution Series, the only compact air system capable of maintaining temperature and humidity at the same time. In addition to providing air conditioning, it perpetually mass dehumidifies 24 hours a day without shutting down and allowing for more condensation to be extracted from the environment. How does the leveraging of these factors come into play? Since humidity is a necessary component to temperature control, the mechanical workings and desired outcomes of the two functions actually share a lot of commonalities. When correctly configured, as such, the Evolution Series is designed to toggle between mass dehumidification and air conditioning modes without any start and stop issues. So there's never any battle between dehumidifying and air conditioning, nor is there any freeze and thaw cycle. This allows it to heat the environment in dehumidification mode, seamlessly switch into air conditioning mode to drop the temperature, then flip back into dehumidification mode again. It's able to do this on the fly for an extended duration without issue, giving growers greater dehumidification efficiency and simplifying the process. The Evolution Series takes 5 to 10 minutes from the point of initial startup to reach its maximum capacity, so it's important to keep it running continuously. When it's in that zone of peak operational performance, growers can rest assured that it is not just mass dehumidifying, but also effectively conditioning the air, because that's just what's required of it. As a further benefit, this undisturbed electrical current, void of any voltage irregularities, is much easier on the components, greatly prolonging the system's functional lifespan. Knowing that at full bloom, the amount of cannabis plants in an average 15-light space are going to transpire about 50 gallons worth of moisture per day, we've engineered the Evolution Series to remove precisely 50 gallons of moisture each day to directly counter this. Many growers then reuse the water that is recovered by pouring it back into their reservoirs. For an even greater effect, we can also stagger systems, so that, for example, if there are multiple Evolution Series systems in a room, 3 of them can be designated with one set point, while the 4th can have a different set point. From there, we can stage up or down accordingly, so there's a lot more versatility. With everything dialed in, it doesn't matter what else is happening. Whether your insulation isn't that strong on a warm day or the temperature is slowly increasing from the emanating heat coming in, because the Evolution Series system will still be running either way. With this technology in place to handle dehumidification, humidity in a grow room is not an issue, and we can next look at technology to handle the reverse for situations where extra humidification is needed. And now Shelby's going to take it from here.
Humidification technology. As the other side of the humidity coin, humidification is also necessary in a grow space. Depending on the setup and stage the plants are in, the air conditioning system might be extracting too much moisture. Additionally, facilities that are not tightly sealed and located in hot desert climates with perhaps only 10% humidity outside may be operating at an insufficient humidity level, since the air conditioning is constantly running to maintain the desired temperature. Rather than keeping the humidity level between 50% and 60%, it may only be somewhere between 30% and 40% instead, which is far too low for most plant strains. In order to effectively balance these scenarios and take the process of humidifying to the next level, Excel Air Systems also offers the Cloudmaker humidification system as a superior solution that is fully compatible with any of our HVAC systems purchased. Depending on where you are geographically located, the Cloudmaker humidification system can really make a big difference by improving the environmental control aspect of your sealed room. As an innovative, game-changing humidifier, the Cloudmaker humidification system gives growers more control in multiple rooms. Its usage is most crucial at the beginning of the growing process, where it helps plants thrive during their younger, earlier stages, when they aren't yet large enough to transpire and can substantially benefit from the added warmth. It's been shown that maintaining humidity levels is vital to sustaining healthy plants, particularly when it comes to the clone room stage, which requires extremely high humidity. Normally, when moving plants into their growth stage in a vegetative state, the usage of high-powered lights requires air conditioning to compensate and lower the heat level, which causes humidity to drop, removing it from the environment. As a result, plants are usually shocked and become quite stressed for several weeks until gaining the strength to overcome this imbalance. The Cloudmaker prevents this so that the plants don't suffer when going into the flower stage, instead working well to keep them comfortable and providing a greater runway for them to continue to flourish. This unlocks another week or two of critically important pre-growth, leading to greater yields. Then, while this may sound surprising, the Cloudmaker humidification system can also actually prove quite beneficial in the drying and curing stage. Although most of the effort in drying and curing room goes towards removing the massive amount of moisture locked inside the product, variables can make this process difficult to perfect as it nears its final resting point. Since growers understandably want to dry their product as fast as possible, but certain strains dry faster than others. A lot of them tend to overshoot the extent of the process and inadvertently end up over-drying. Having the Cloudmaker on standby not only enables you to correct for an overshoot by pumping more humidity into the drying room and curing room, but also gives you the ability to stage it down as slowly as you would like. Since its humidity output is greater than that of the environmental control system, the Cloudmaker allows you to dictate the exact rate of humidity decline to offset the environment and even everything out for an optimum curing process. This saves the end product and ensures that it doesn't end up burnt, dry, or crisp, while dramatically improving obtainable cannabinoids and terpenes. Throughout each stage of the growing process, the Cloudmaker is able to provide the humidity and temperature balance that you need. How exactly is that humidity strategically created and balanced? Having been designed to supply 69 gallons of water, 550 pints per day, the Cloudmaker has more than enough capacity to compensate for one 5-ton system. So there's no reason for concern about it losing the battle and humidity potentially getting too low. In other words, if you have a grow room that's equipped with one 5-ton system, one Cloudmaker humidification system will work harmoniously with it, as the moisture collected from the air conditioning is then utilized and spread back throughout the space via the Cloudmaker. To expand on that, for example, in a massive facility with 9 5-ton systems, a minimum of 6 Cloudmaker humidification systems could be utilized to keep everything balanced, but pairing one Cloudmaker with each 5-ton would best ensure the ultimate level of environmental control. With its mitigation of issues related to the conflict between humidity and air conditioning and the ability to add more humidity, the Cloudmaker also makes it easier for growers to set specific targeted values with data analytics. Utilizing data analytics. When operating a sealed room and maintaining balanced humidity, identifying and managing the factors affecting the environment and plant development is highly advantageous. To advance their growing methods and increase yield capabilities, growers need to utilize data analytics, which can prove to be extremely beneficial in fine-tuning that process. That data can be brought in from many different metrics and controllers, even just a grower's own observation as they monitor their thermostat and take notes with a pencil and pad. Building on that concept, there are professional-level designs that we can institute and technology in development that we will soon be able to incorporate to allow growers to see exactly what's happening. Recognizing and heavily investing in the many abilities that can be unlocked through data-driven technology, layering data points, and innovative methodology. We are currently in the final stages of creating the XFlow Data Analytics Controller and launching its accompanying smartphone app, which will signify the start of a new era for Excel Air Systems, that of a major shift from the physical world to the software world. The XFlow Data Analytics Controller is an upcoming live streaming device that will be easily integrated into any unit or grow space with a 24-volt power supply. It's designed to provide a handful of crucial data points, including return and supply air humidity levels, which will be actively displayed in real time. Having your system connected to the XFlow Data Analytics Controller will give you the ability to monitor your grow room and better understand how the humidity and other environmental conditions react to different changes, while allowing us at Excel Air Systems to assist you with technical support. This will make sure that you don't have any unusual spikes and everything goes smoothly in a manner that's least stressful to your plants. Regardless of the preferred method of data collection and analysis, when it comes to transitions, data can be further utilized to determine how to take some of the stress out of the shift between day and night cycles. Similar to how temperature increases when the lights turn on and decreases when they turn off, humidity decreases when the lights turn on and increases when they turn off, from day to night. There are methods to placate this, such as the sunrise technique, where we start to bring temperatures up a degree or two a half hour or hour before turning the lights on, thereby avoiding the instant pop effect. Then, the sunset technique can prevent spikes in humidity at night by decreasing the temperature towards the end of the day, removing the excess of humidity, and lessening its impact. In other words, we are smoothing out the points on the data chart to prevent such drastic spikes. While simple enough to execute, these techniques prove highly effective in helping plants thrive without the shock of the radical contrast from on and off. We can also specifically look into each individual cycle to compare plants in their first week of the bloom cycle with those in the 8th week, in order to best manage temperatures while plants are transpiring differently. This means running things higher or lower to help mitigate the effect. Since many growers are looking to achieve a certain vapor pressure deficit, VPD, within their facility, which typically requires a higher relative humidity, RH, the intricate VPD concept comes into play. A special sensor that measures leaf temperature when looking at the leaves to determine how well they are transpiring or digesting is used for this. Those currently using VPD have their own special set of sensors and methodology, as illustrated by this VPD chart of temperature and humidity. Many botanists recommend remaining within the green area, having found it to be the perfect sweet spot. While we at Excel Air Systems think that things need to be done a bit differently for cannabis, we recognize and respect that each grower is going to have their own opinion based on their experiences, and we can certainly leverage our expertise, and will adapt our upcoming data analytics technology to work with VPD controls. Since we know that on average VPD runs a higher humidity level, it's critical to still have proper analytics and sensors in place to know exactly what's happening in the room, reinforced by adequate air conditioning, dehumidification, and humidification systems, in order to walk that very fine line. All of that being said, regardless of your exact setup and what humidity technology you are using in your facility, we'd still like to make sure that you have a proper understanding of what to be mindful of when maintaining balanced humidity and what some of the misconceptions are. Misconceptions and recommendations. Even with our continuing efforts to inform industry professionals about the importance of balanced humidity, we've observed that some misconceptions have prevailed. Despite the increased efficiency of our dehumidification and humidification systems, the individuals with this mindset may be unaware of the difference that our innovative products can make. So we'd like to clear up a couple things and make some further recommendations. For some, it has been a degree of skepticism regarding the advantages of an all-in-one environmental control solution over independent air conditioning and dehumidification systems. This is understandable, as in many of life's circumstances, custom appliances tailored to a specific purpose are indeed vastly superior to gimmicky multi-tools, which are usually trying to be too much at once. However, when pushing the boundaries of innovation, a balance and trade-off must be reached. In this case, since humidity is relative to temperature, any opportunity to combine these components is well worth exploring, which is why we have parlayed the expertise we have learned throughout the years of engineering air conditioners, evaluating dehumidifiers, and setting up grow rooms and designing the Evolution series as an ideal solution that can be easily installed, plugged in, and run in a single day. Unsurprisingly, what has happened quite frequently is that we have had customers who were initially hesitant and purchased a cooling-only system at first, but have later called us back and lamented the fact that their setup was not working effectively, as they needed more dehumidification. As a result, realizing their mistake, they have then upgraded to the cooling and dehumidification Evolution series system, and immediately noticed a huge improvement. They've been so impressed that they have gone on to recommend them to others as a reference, now understanding the difference that humidity control makes in a grow room. Because of this level of innovation, for additional humidity refinement, multiple Evolution series systems can be staged so that if, for example, you have a room with 4 systems, 3 of them can run continuously, while the 4th can switch between dehumidification and air conditioning modes as required. With each system, schedules can be set for the duration of the day to the grower's specific preferences. We recommend removing a bit of humidity throughout midday, then adding a bit more towards the end of the day into the evening. This helps balance the units by offsetting what's being put into the room, as to not overshoot or undershoot it. On that note, in determining dehumidification for both day and night cycles, growers feeding their plants varying quantities on different days of the week should not only consider what the average is across multiple days, but also the percentage of the other nutrients aside from the water. For example, if you're feeding plants 100 gallons, all of that is obviously not going to become vapor. Each will saturate differently, depending on the growing medium selected and the stage of the cycle. Then towards the end of the growing cycle, a lot of growers want to drop the temperature as much as possible with more air conditioning. But it's important to do this in a way that's most healthy for the plants, and consider how this is going to affect humidity levels. The colder the room becomes, the more humidity is being removed from the air. So humidity should be added at the same time to compensate, allowing the air to be more easily pulled. To get the most out of these setups, it's important to make sure that humidity is properly set in accordance with airflow and air quality, so that humidity levels are the same in all corners and areas. Otherwise, this can leave your grow space prone to a variety of humidity-related inconsistencies. For example, some growers have managed to, at one point, cultivate unusually large harvests, for which they congratulated themselves in celebration. But then, the next time the exact same setup, they would only get a third of that yield and become frustrated, as the humidity levels were completely different. In these instances, they would blame the plants for the issue, instead of recognizing the humidity and airflow variables as the obvious factor. Not having proper airflow in a room with high humidity also opens up the opportunity for mold and bacteria to grow in certain areas, which can then spread, leading down the path of destroying your product. We've unfortunately seen this happen before with grow rooms where plants got all moldy. Some growers have actually attempted to wipe the mold right off and clean the leaves with hydrogen peroxide to salvage it as much as they could, but this has never been consistently effective. If and when that doesn't work, and the mold returns after a couple days, the growers then have had no choice but to destroy their plants, all because of the humidity imbalance. With regard to plant size, in contrast to the average 8-week growing cycle, some growers aim for longer 20-week cycles that produce larger, more tree-like plants with a lot more transpiration. This subsequently elevates their humidity requirements accordingly, thereby necessitating an adequate understanding of their system's capabilities. By following our recommendations and sizing capacities accordingly, you can achieve balanced humidity in your grow space. We are aware that everybody has a unique setup, so we're just here to assist however we can. In closing, at Excel Air Systems, we are committed to providing the growers with superior, scalable dehumidification and humidification technology to ensure consistent humidity levels for the best product. Much like with every other aspect of growing, humidity is important and should be managed properly to keep that balance. It starts with properly sizing a customer for what they need for cooling and dehumidification, then determining their humidification needs to make sure it's all dialed in based off of specs with a science behind everything, not just something to install because someone else had one. Our environmental control technology allows you to create an optimum environment at each stage of the growing process and ensure smooth transitions by adding and removing humidity as needed in a sort of balancing act, which improves efficiencies and overall qualities of the yield. The Evolution series gives you the benchmark of control for humidity and temperature. And if too much humidity is extracted or more is needed, it's easily put into the grow space with the Cloudmaker humidification system. Then since the cannabis industry has begun to enter the era of big data, humidity levels will soon be able to be monitored and controlled with the XFlow data analytic controller. Collectively, this is all part of giving growers what they need, including the information to make the best decision, because that's really what it's all about. Right now, though, we want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we'd like to express our sincere appreciation to you all for your interest and attention. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our knowledge of humidity with you.